What's going on, beautiful people? Daniel Mediar in the building. Today we're streaming on all platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok simultaneously. So we're going to talk about a very important topic, and that's what turns women off. What behavior attracts women, we already discussed in previous videos, and if you haven't seen them, go to my YouTube channel, Daniel Mediar USA, and watch the material, learn it. And today we're going to go through the opposite, okay? So before I start, of course, you can find my services at themprotrainer.com. You can join my 1, 3, and a 6-month coaching program where we go through, of course, fitness, as I've been doing for the past 12 years. We go through human relationships and also finances. So pretty much everything that you need for self-improvement. When you're trying to order a really high-quality beef that is grass-fed, grass-finished, produced in America, Utah and Texas specifically, and we ship nationwide, you can go to dmbeef.com and place your order right now. You can find all the links below in the description. I also published a book that's called Weight Loss Without Plateau, where I discuss in detail human metabolism and my calorie cycling method. So, before we start, I'm going to make sure that stream is working 100% on all platforms and everything looks awesome. So let's get to the step number 1. That's emotional inaccessibility. Okay, so if you're not accessible emotionally to a woman, that means that you misunderstood the push and pull game, because the push and pull is very important. Push means that you're present and you communicate all the good feelings and comfort to a woman, and then you pull back and you let the attraction breathe, because the attraction in women is born in silence. When she's alone, she's thinking about you by herself, walk around the house, she's constantly thinking about you. It's just like you moved in her brain like a little warrior, and now you're sitting on a bonfire making up a steak and you have your little tent in her head. That's metaphorically speaking, of course. So that's when the attraction actually grows. When a woman is actually excited, when she sees your message and when she's constantly looking at her phone, did he text me, did he text me? And then when you text her in this state of mind, she's going to be very excited to respond, okay? However, when you go too far on the pull and you let only a woman in the beginning stages do the talking, do the reaching out, that's actually unattractive. So you need to understand when it's a good time to push and pull. You want to create a beautiful harmony in a conversation. So it's like a game of tennis. You shoot a ball on her court, and then she holds the ball, and then she shoots it back. And that's how you guys text, back and forth. In the beginning, you don't want to use a whole lot of text conversations. You don't want to be on a phone with a woman for hours. You pretty much use your phone just to set the next date and discuss things in person, okay? So when a woman reaches out and she does the first step, she's not going to feel like she's doing all the pursuing, because every time she reaches out, she's going to get the date. You're going to set the date and you're going to communicate interest. So you can't only be inaccessible. Inaccessibility, it is attractive when it's balanced properly with the presence. Now, the step number 2 is neediness and validation seeking. That's absolutely disgusting, okay? You're communicating emotional weakness to a woman. Every single woman will dump you for that. Because when you make a woman a center of your universe and you let her feel that you need her and your life actually has no purpose without her, she's going to dump you. It is very primal. A woman is always looking for a man that is stronger and better than her. So neediness is absolutely disgusting. Constant reassurance, jealousy, or reliance on a partner to regulate self-worth creates emotional fatigue and imbalance. Okay? As we said, the woman always wants to have a stronger man than her. Financially, emotionally, physically, bigger, taller, always better in every aspect than she is. Okay, you never want to be reassuring yourself with a woman. Like, am I enough? Do you like me? Do you love me? And all these questions, they have to go. The woman is the one who communicates feelings, okay? She perceives this world through emotions. So you let her talk and bring up emotions first. You don't ever walk up to a stranger woman and start talking about emotions first. It makes her feel like you're forcing her to commit to something that she's not ready for. So that's why you always got to let the woman bring up the topic of emotions, of relationship, of love, etc. You don't seek validation. You're not asking her if you're enough. You're not asking her if what you've done up till this point was enough. She doesn't know, but as soon as you're going to ask, you put it in her on the psychological throne, and she will start looking down at you like at a servant. And now she's in a position where she's going to decide whether or not she wants you. Instead, you want to trigger desire. And desire is actually the feeling where she wants to invest her energy and her effort into making this relationship work. Now, the step number 3 is the inconsistency between words and actions. That's very unattractive. Saying one thing and doing another erodes trust quickly. Reliability is foundational to emotional attraction. That's why I always tell you, as a man, you can't afford to just throw words into the thin air and not act upon it. That's why you never threaten a woman to break up with her when you don't mean it. You never threaten a woman with anything if you're not actually going to do it, okay? You never say something that you can't stick to. Like, for example, you're going to take care of this errand on Thursday, and then you don't. And then she comes up and she's asking you, hey, did you take care of this? And you're like, no, I'll take care of it next week. This is where your words are not aligning with your actions, and she's going to immediately start losing respect for you. She might not show it, she might not say it out loud, but internally she's losing respect because you're constantly saying these big fabulous things and you never act upon it. Also, same things goes for the future plans. If you're saying you're going to start a business, if you're saying you're going to start whatever project, don't say it out loud unless you really mean it and you know you're going to act upon it. Pretty much, watch your words. Your words, in women's eyes, are gold. If you don't act upon what you said, she's going to start losing respect. So don't throw your words around like this, because that's what's going to pretty much devaluate your position in the relationship. Now, the step number 4 is poor emotional regulation. Very important. Explosive anger, passive aggressiveness, sulking, or emotional withdrawal under stress suggest immaturity or unpredictability. Okay? So poor emotional regulation means that you're not in the center of your emotions. Masculine energy given by God is always in the center of his emotions. Masculine energy can actually stay in the center even when he feels a very intense emotion. Let's say somebody betrays you and you just found out. The beauty of the masculine energy is that you don't act upon the anger as you feel right now. Because when you're angry, you're going to make the stupidest decision ever. You let the anger sit within. You don't act upon it. You're quiet. You might isolate yourself so you can center yourself out. And then once when you're calm and you regain your rationality and logic, you come back to this problem and you discuss the solution. That is very attractive. But most men cannot do it. As soon as they feel something, immediately they act upon it. And that is unattractive because the reaction will be actually one of the dumbest decisions they ever made. And they're going to end up regretting it later on. So you never act upon your emotions. Okay, that is the core of the masculine energy. And that communicates to a woman that you're stable. A woman seeks stability, emotional and financial. Okay, emotional stability is even more important than the financial stability. So when she knows she can rely on your emotional reactions and she knows that you can handle yourself, then you communicate to her psychologically that you can handle her or any other challenges in life. Very important. Always stay in the center of your emotions. Now, another step is lack of empathy, not listening, minimizing concerns, or making conversations about oneself signals low emotional intelligence. So this goes back to hearing and understanding women. Woman always wants to be heard and understood. Now, empathy comes in the understanding part. So when a woman talks to you and you're listening to her and you're maintaining eye contact, you're always trying to come from the empathetic position and look at the situation from her eyes. As soon as you're capable of doing that, she's going to feel understood. And this is actually a communication of empathy, that instead of judging her, you're trying to see things through her eyes. Okay? This is very important. So you don't have to be empathetic and lovely all the time, but especially when she's talking about some big issues that are concerning her or a trouble in her, you're coming from the position of understanding, never judging. Because as soon as you judge a woman for what she feels, she's going to emotionally close off and the attraction dies. So your goal is actually to make a woman feel as comfortable as possible so she can open up emotionally and communicate everything she feels to you because she knows her feelings are protected. Now remember, your job as a man is not to fix her feelings, it's to handle them. That's where most men go wrong. They try to fix women's emotions and fix women's problems. That's not how this works. She doesn't need the advice. What she needs is for you to actually listen and understand her. That's really that simple. Now, another one is stagnation and lack of purpose. Very important. This is later on in life when your guys are already in a relationship for 2-3 years. If you want to keep a woman long term, you always have to have a mission and a purpose. No direction, no growth or accountability, especially when paired with blame shifting, undermines respect and long-term attraction. Like I said, if you want to keep a woman long-term, you always have to have a mission and a purpose. And you don't ever put a woman in the center of your universe and do everything for her. Remember, what is really attractive about a man and who is the man by himself without a woman. That's what she is attracted to. She's not attracted to the kind of a guy who becomes whole after she becomes part of his life. She might say it because as she's saying it, she's using logic. However, when she's actually in that position where a man makes her center of his universe, it will become unattractive. Eventually, she's going to dump him. So you have your own universe. And in this universe, you have your own mission and your own purpose, something that you're building. Your business, your net worth, your house, your whatever you're building in your life. That's what you got to focus on. And a woman is just part of it. That's very attractive. Now, it goes against everything you've ever heard. But the problem is that everything you've ever heard is just complete nonsense. It doesn't work. It's a failed technology. So you really have to look into the deeper part of a human psychology that's also pretty dark in certain cases, especially when it gets to manipulation, etc., and understand what's actually triggering the attraction. And the attractive part of a man is always the mission and the purpose and being in the center of his emotions. So when we go through these steps briefly, first is emotional inaccessibility. Okay, so you don't understand the push and pull game properly. So you can't only just pull and not communicate any interest to a woman because that's going to turn her off. Now, neediness and validation seeking, horrible stuff. Don't ever ask a woman if you're enough. As soon as you start doubting yourself and you're not going to be sure if you're enough for her, then she's immediately going to categorize you as a man who cannot handle her. Now, number 3, inconsistency between words and actions. I see this a lot with the guys who talk big. They talk a big game, they talk big future, big plans, big missions, and they never act upon it. This turns women off. They're frustrated, especially the women who are hustlers themselves and who work hard and they build in their own imperium, especially businesswomen who are strong and they know how to make money. If they meet a guy who has these big words and big visions and never acts upon it, they lose interest in a heartbeat. So poor emotional regulation, that's the problem of most of the men because they just can't stay in a center. As soon as they feel anger, sadness, heartbreak, whatever, they act upon it immediately. Now you got to remember, the first idea of action when you feel really, really high emotion is the dumbest. Always. You're going to end up regretting that. So the faster you learn to stay in the center of your emotions and not act upon the emotions, the better your life will be and more attraction the woman is going to feel for you. Then lack of empathy, we already talked about it. Empathy when you have to come from a position of understanding a woman. When she's talking and sharing all of her emotions with you, you hear her. By maintaining eye contact, you're quiet, let her speak. And then from empathy, that's understanding when you're trying to actually understand the angle that she's coming from. Okay, you're trying to see the situation through her eyes. That is the empathy. That is very attractive. And then we got the stagnation and lack of purpose. A lot of men suffer from this. They just don't know what to do in their lives. Simply, the man's mission is whatever he is passionate about, and he turns it into money. The modern way of surviving is to make money. Before, it used to be hunting, fire making. You know, you make a tent somewhere in the woods and you made sure there's no water. Well, that's gone. In 2026, it's really about money making. This is your survival mechanism. You can use currency to purchase food, water, shelter, etc. So this is what you really got to become good at as a man. You have to be good at gaining resources which are ultimately going to protect the woman and her children behind your back. And that only happens when you have a life purpose and a mission. So think about it. What is your passion? And turn that passion into the money. If you don't know how, or if this passion doesn't have an industry, which is very unlikely, but if that's your case, just create a new industry. That's how simple it is. All right, so this was it for today's lesson. Thank you so much for tuning in. And again, I'm going to see you tomorrow with another topic, with another video.